Did you know the world's most restricted country has more cosmetic surgeries than all of Europe? In a country where showing skin is taboo, people are changing the very shape of their faces. What makes a wife in Iran choose a second wife for her husband? That's crazy, but it's true. Iran. Just the name might bring to mind veiled women, strict rules, and a faraway land you're told to fear. But what if I told you that behind the fabric, there's something else? And that's only the beginning. So settle in, and let's travel together through the heart of a country that has surprised even the wisest of wanderers. These are the 15 mind-blowing facts about Iran. And by the end, you might not see the world the same way again. 15. Fire and snow, Iran's untamed beauty. Imagine a country where snow-capped mountains stretch like ancient walls, surrounding deserts so fierce that even the earth itself seems to boil. This is Iran, a land carved by time, guarded by mountains, and scorched by sun. Iran is like a natural fortress built to both protect and challenge the people within it. The Dasht-e-Lut, the Lut Desert. It is not just hot. It is the hottest surface on Earth ever recorded. At one point, NASA satellites detected ground temperatures soaring to over 177 degrees Fahrenheit. That's not air temperature, that's the heat of the Earth beneath your feet. A heat so brutal it can kill in minutes. How can anyone survive such a place? They don't, not really. There are no cities, no farms, almost no plants. And yet even here, there is something sacred. Hidden beneath the silence are ancient footprints, 87 archaeological sites scattered across these sands, whispering stories of people who once dared to live where no one should. UNESCO has called it a world treasure, a raw and untamed echo of our earliest human steps. Iran is home to over 86 million people. That's more than double the population of California, America's most populated state. From Persian to Kurdish to Azeri, and with more than 70 languages and dialects spoken across the country, this land is not just diverse in landscape. It is alive with voices, cultures, and traditions that have withstood both nature and empire. What kind of people are shaped by snow at their borders and fire at their feet? Let's explore that question in the next part of this travel documentary. 14. Love's unlikely choice. Wives pick wives. Deep in the southern mountains of Iran, far from the noise of city streets and the glow of neon signs, lives a people who still move with the seasons. The Qashqai tribe has roamed these lands for centuries, herding livestock and carrying stories on their backs like heirlooms. But among their many customs, one stands out. And it's something few in the modern world would ever expect. In the Qashqai way of life, a man is not allowed to take a second wife unless his first wife agrees. And more than that, she is the one who must choose a second wife for him. Often it happens when a couple cannot have children, but it's not bitterness that drives this custom. It is a kind of loyalty, a sense that family comes before pride. Here, living alone is seen as unnatural, almost selfish. Everyone is expected to belong to someone, to something, to a shared purpose. It is not about individual freedom. It's about survival, about lineage, about the herd. But the modern world creeps closer every year. Cities whisper promises of freedom, but they take more than they give. The younger ones are leaving, not out of rebellion, but confusion. And the elders know, when the last storyteller is gone, who will remember what it meant to live by the wind and not by the clock? But let me ask you something. If this tradition existed in your country, in your own culture, do you think your wife would ever choose a second wife for you? Not out of jealousy, but out of duty, or even love. And more curiously, would you accept it? 13. Love with an expiration date. In many places, love is messy. In Iran, it can also be legal, timed, and signed in ink. It's called sighe, temporary marriage, and it's not a scandal whispered in alleyways. It's approved by religious law, supported by the government, and deeply embedded in the culture. For a few days, a few months, or even just an afternoon, a man and a woman can enter into a sacred contract. They go to a mosque, recite verses, and leave as husband and wife. But only for the time they've agreed upon. There's no hiding, no shame, no violation of law. Some see it as a solution, a way for young people who can't afford traditional marriage to find emotional companionship without breaking religious codes. In a country where nearly 2/3 of the population is under 25 and economic pressures are heavy, sighe offers relief, at least on the surface. But beneath the paper lies something more fragile. Children born from these unions often don't know who their father is. Women can face stigma, isolation, or even abandonment. And while the contract may protect them legally, it rarely protects them emotionally. Some men use sighe to avoid long-term commitment. Others use it to justify desire while leaving behind responsibility. 12. Oil, gas, and grit, Iran's hidden power. Beneath the dusty plains and mountain shadows of Iran lies a power few nations can match. The country holds the third largest oil reserves on Earth, over 200 billion barrels. Its natural gas supplies are even more vast, second only to Russia. Every day, millions of barrels are drawn from the ground, fueling cities, heating homes, and keeping the economy alive. In 2022 alone, Iran's oil production was worth more than $115 billion. That's not just fuel, that's lifeblood, money that feeds families, builds infrastructure, and props up a country often isolated by the world. And yet, every barrel is also a bargain with time. Fossil fuels bring wealth, but at a cost. Pollution, political tension, environmental decay. They all rise with every pipeline laid. Iran knows this. Quietly, steadily, it's shifting. Solar panels glint in desert sunlight. Wind farms turn along mountain ridges. Renewable energy now makes up 6% of the nation's electricity. Not much yet, but a signal, a promise, maybe even a hope. And maybe that's the real secret. Despite being under US sanctions since 1979, Iran has managed to grow, adapt, and build, not just in silence, but with surprising strength and quiet determination. If you've stayed with us this far, thank you. These stories take time to tell, and your time means everything. Your support helps us bring more of the world's quiet wonders to light, and we'd love to have you with us for the next one. 11. Behind the Veil, a silent transformation. When you think of the world's beauty capital, the land of cosmetic surgery, your mind probably goes straight to South Korea, and who could blame you? But after hearing this next fact, you just might have to think again. In a country where many women must cover their hair, and often their faces, you might not expect beauty to be a public obsession. But Iran, quietly, and perhaps paradoxically, leads Asia in nose surgeries. Every year, tens of thousands of Iranians, men and women alike, go under the knife, not in secret, but openly, proudly. What does beauty really mean in a land where the face is often hidden, but still so fiercely sculpted? For many, it's a badge of status, confidence, even rebellion. A bandage on the nose is no longer something to hide. It's become a kind of signal. I can afford this, or I care how I'm seen. In a place where modesty is mandated, the nose has become the canvas for self-expression. Cosmetic clinics flourish in cities like Tehran and Shiraz. Prices are lower than in the West, but the results are world-class. Some people even fly to Iran for what's now called medical beauty tourism. Behind the scenes, the West's idea of beauty, small, sharp, symmetrical, has taken root, quietly, perceptibly, and it's reshaping more than just faces. It's reshaping identities. 10. Red gold, the spice that costs a fortune. What if the most expensive flavor in the world came from the humblest hands? They call it red gold, not because it glitters, but because it's so rare, so delicate, and so demanding that it might as well be priceless. Saffron, the world's most expensive spice by weight, finds its heartland in Iran. Here, amid dry winds and quiet villages, families rise before dawn to gather the first blooms of the fragile crocus flower. Each flower holds just 3 red threads, the part we know as saffron. To make a single kilogram, farmers must hand-pick over 11,000 blossoms. There are no machines, no shortcuts, just careful fingers, tired backs, and years of tradition passed down in silence. The harvest lasts only a few short weeks each year, and timing is everything. Miss a day, and the petals wilt. Harvest too late, and the color fades. And yet, through blistered hands and aching knees, Iranian farmers keep at it, not just for money, but for pride. For them, saffron isn't just a crop, it's a legacy. Today, 1 kilogram of high-grade Iranian saffron can cost anywhere from $2,000 to $5,000 depending on purity and origin. You'll find it in specialty spice markets, gourmet stores, and online platforms, often in tiny glass jars, just 1 gram at a time. You can even find pure Iranian saffron on sites like Amazon or at Middle Eastern shops in cities like Los Angeles, London, or Paris. This is the flavor found in royal dishes, exotic teas, and high-end perfumes. But before it touches silver spoons or silk scarves, it begins in cold soil, dug, plucked, and dried by those who may never taste it themselves. 9. Kindness in crisis. Iran's refugee haven. You may think of Iran as closed off, even isolated, but history tells a different story, one of quiet compassion, even in the hardest of times. In the 1940s, while much of the world turned its back, Iran opened its borders to thousands of Jewish refugees escaping the horrors of Nazi Germany. These families, desperate and displaced, found not just safety, but kindness, warm food, shelter, and a place to begin again. And Iran, though poor and facing its own struggles, gave what it had. That same spirit lives on today. Iran now hosts over 800,000 registered refugees, mostly from Afghanistan and Iraq, and possibly more than 1 million undocumented ones. These aren't just numbers. They're families trying to survive in a land already burdened by sanctions and economic hardship. But kindness doesn't come without a price. Between 3 and 7 million children in Iran. Many of them are refugees. Work in the shadows. Some sell candy at traffic lights. Others sort through garbage or scrub floors in silence. Their laughter still echoes, but so does the struggle behind their eyes. In a country that faces so much pressure from outside, it keeps giving from within. So please tell us the answer. How do you measure kindness in a country under sanctions? 8. Tehran's secret: affordable living. Iran's bustling capital may surprise you, not just in its energy, but in how affordable it can be. While prices have risen in recent years, the overall cost of living is still far below what most Americans are used to. Let's start with housing. A 1-bedroom apartment in the center of Tehran rents for around $400 to $500 per month. Move to the outskirts, and that number can drop to $250. By comparison, a similar apartment in a U.S. city like Los Angeles or New York often costs over $3,000 a month, sometimes much more. Groceries and daily expenses also follow this pattern. A fresh loaf of bread might cost 20 cents. A hearty restaurant meal? Less than $5. Public transportation is clean, efficient, and shockingly cheap. Just a few cents per ride. A meal in Tehran costs just $5, cheaper than a cup of coffee in New York. In a world where the cost of living seems to rise faster than our paychecks, Tehran stands out. Life here may be different, but it's also grounded, manageable, and quietly dignified. Tehran offers a full, modern lifestyle without the crushing weight of debt. So let me ask you, with prices like these, how does it compare to where you live? Would you choose to settle here? 7. Women rule the market in Iran's south. In the sun-drenched province of Hormozgan, nestled near the southern coast of Iran, there's a marketplace unlike any other in the country, perhaps even the world. It's called Zanan Bazaar, and here, every shopkeeper, every voice behind the counter, every pair of eyes sizing up a bargain, belongs to a woman. Men can enter, men can shop, but they cannot sell. This is not rebellion, it's tradition. One quietly passed from mother to daughter, generation after generation. In a country often portrayed as restrictive toward women, this bazaar tells a different story. One of agency, pride, and a kind of quiet, everyday power. The women here run their stalls with skill. They haggle fiercely, smile sparingly, and know exactly what their goods are worth. From spices to textiles to handmade jewelry, everything carries not just a price, but a presence, the stamp of a woman who stands behind it. There are no speeches, no headlines, no marches, just the quiet rhythm of daily trade, guided by firm hands and unshakable pride. It's not loud, but it's lasting. Six, a forest that outlived the Ice Age. Along the misty slopes where the Alborz Mountains kiss the southern edge of the Caspian Sea, lies a forest so old it makes even our deepest family trees feel young. The Hyrcanian forest has stood for more than 50 million years. It has seen glaciers come and go. It watched the birth of civilizations and kept breathing through every storm history could throw its way. Here, nature is not just beautiful, it is resilient. The trees are layered like chapters in an ancient book. Each leaf a page, each root a memory buried deep. Scientists say this forest survived when most of Europe's greenery was wiped out in the last ice age. How? The Caspian Sea acted like a shield, wrapping the forest in a blanket of moisture and warmth, while the rest of the world froze. Within these woods roam creatures as rare as forgotten languages. Persian leopards, majestic, fierce, and nearly extinct. Move silently through the undergrowth, their golden eyes still watching the trails of their ancestors. Wolves, bears, jackals, red deer all live in quiet harmony under the green canopy. It is a living museum, a sanctuary that somehow still thrives despite climate change, deforestation, and time itself. But this place is more than trees and animals. It's home to people too. Small communities who live as their ancestors did, drawing herbs for healing, food for sharing, and stories for keeping the soul alive. In a world that's speeding up, they remain still. And in that stillness, they protect something we all may need one day: patience, balance, and reverence. 5. Carpets worth millions, woven by hand. In the world of art, some masterpieces hang in museums. Others lie quietly on the floor beneath your feet. The Persian carpet is not just a household item. It is a woven soul. Each one can take years, sometimes decades, to complete. Every thread is tied by hand. Every pattern holds a memory. And for centuries, these carpets have told the story of Iran. Not in words, but in color, texture, and time. The finest among them can fetch prices beyond imagination. In 2013, one carpet, the Clark sickle leaf, sold for over $33 million at auction in New York. But ask any weaver, and they'll tell you, its real value is not in the price, but in the patience. In Fars province, where this art began, women still sit beside wooden looms, passing down techniques their grandmothers once whispered by firelight. The dyes come from flowers, bark, and insects, all natural, all alive. No two carpets are the same. Each one is a fingerprint of human emotion, captured in silk and wool. Today, those looms are falling silent. The younger generation, drawn to screens, cities, and faster lives, sees little future in knots and yarn. And with each abandoned loom, a chapter of cultural memory quietly fades. 4. Strangers become family. Iran's warm welcome. In Iran, hospitality isn't a social nicety. It's a sacred duty. Whether you're a neighbor, a stranger, or a foreigner just passing through, the Iranian custom of ta'aruf teaches that guests must be treated with the highest honor. You may arrive empty-handed, but you will never leave with an empty stomach or an untouched heart. It's common for travelers to be invited into homes by people they've just met, not just for tea, but for a full meal: saffron rice, roasted eggplant, fresh herbs, and stews simmered for hours. And they won't let you pay, no matter how many times you try. That's not how it works here. One American backpacker once wrote about getting lost in Shiraz. A local shopkeeper not only gave him directions, but closed his store for the afternoon, walked him to the bus station, bought his ticket, and handed him a bag of fruit, just in case he got hungry. This isn't rare. It's the norm. In a world growing colder by the day, Iran remains a place where the door still opens wide, the tea still pours warm, and generosity flows without expectation. So ask yourself, when was the last time a stranger went out of their way to make you feel at home? You could come to Iran to feel it. 3. Food that warms the soul. Iranian food isn't loud. It doesn't shout on the plate. It whispers. With saffron rising through the steam, with slow-cooked lamb that falls apart under the touch of a spoon, and with rice so fragrant, it almost feels like perfume for the soul. This is food made by hands that know patience, by mothers and grandmothers who learned not from cookbooks, but from memory, smell, and love. Take cello kebab, the national dish. Tender skewers of grilled meat, served over rice cooked with a golden crust called tahdig, or fesenjan, a stew made from walnuts and pomegranate molasses, dark, sweet, and hauntingly rich. And let's not forget ash reshteh, a thick noodle soup, earthy with herbs and chickpeas, the kind of meal that makes winter feel warmer. But if you really want to taste Iran's heart, step outside, into the streets. That's where the magic happens. You'll find saffron-scented rice wrapped in warm flatbread, and grilled meats sizzling beside busy sidewalks. Vendors serve up steaming bowls of halim at sunrise, a thick porridge of wheat and shredded lamb, spiced just enough to wake the senses. In the afternoon, sambusas crisp in bubbling oil, while pomegranate juice is poured fresh over crushed ice. 2. Fire and festivities, Iran's joyful rituals. In Iran, festivals are not just days on the calendar. They are moments when the soul breathes. The most cherished of all is Nowruz, the Persian New Year, celebrated on the spring equinox. For over 3,000 years, families have gathered to welcome the light, the warmth, and the promise of renewal. They clean their homes, set a half-seen table with 7 symbolic items, and light candles to chase away darkness, not just from the house, but from the heart. Children receive coins, elders share stories, and neighbors visit one another with sweets in hand. and kindness in their voices. Parks fill with music, rivers glow with floating lanterns, and as fireworks bloom overhead, it feels less like celebration and more like collective healing. But Nowruz is just one of many. There's Chaharshanbe Suri, the fire-jumping festival where people leap over flames, shouting, "Give me your red, take away my yellow," a ritual to burn away sickness and invite health. In a country often seen through the lens of politics, Iran's festivals quietly remind the world of something else, the enduring joy of togetherness. Would you dare jump over fire like Iranians do during Chaharshanbe Suri? 1. Ancient roots, modern dreams. Today, when we think of Iran, many imagine deserts and ancient ruins. But step into its cities, and you'll see something else entirely. Tehran, Shiraz, Isfahan. These are not echoes of the past, but reflections of a modern, evolving society. The streets buzz with young people holding smartphones, sipping espresso in sleek cafes, coding in tech startups, and following global fashion trends beneath their headscarves. Iran's universities rank among the best in the region, producing scientists, engineers, and doctors who often move on to careers abroad. The country has its own satellites, advanced medical research, and a booming film industry that wins awards on international stages. Women drive, teach, manage companies. Men study art, literature, and design. And in between the traffic jams and ancient mosques, you'll find a generation that is both deeply rooted and endlessly forward-looking. The paradox is real. Tradition stands tall here, but modern life flows around it like water around stone. And perhaps that's what makes Iran so hard to define. It is old and new, silent and loud, constrained yet bursting with creative life. Thank you for taking the time to discover a side of Iran the world rarely shows. Your curiosity keeps these stories alive. We hope this journey left you not only informed, but inspired. Stay curious, stay open, and we'll see you in the next story.
Iran might be one of the most misunderstood places on Earth. For decades, it's been framed as hostile, closed off, and unforgiving. A place where rules crush freedom, where women are invisible, where anger fills the streets. The headlines tell one story, but there's so much more to discover. But what if most of that isn't the whole truth? What if we turned off the news, closed the BBC tab, and started walking the streets ourselves? In this travel documentary, you'll meet a country that doesn't beg for sympathy. It simply wants to be seen for what it really is. This isn't the Iran they showed you. It's the Iran they never dared to print.
They're creative.
They have very good potentials.
They say Iran is extreme in ideology, in isolation, in everything. But when you step off the boulevard and into the alley, that story begins to fall apart. Just beyond the highways of Tehran, where glossy billboards shout slogans from a different era, you'll find another Iran, one the cameras rarely show. Walk into the south districts of Tehran, and you'll see children barefoot on cracked concrete, chasing plastic bottles instead of footballs. A man with a crutch leans on a rusted pole, begging in silence. A woman, face hidden by a torn scarf, quietly asks if you have any leftover bread. There are over 3.5 million people living below the official poverty line in Iran, according to the Iranian Parliament's Research Center in 2023. In parts of Sistan and Baluchistan province, over 45% of children under 12 don't attend formal school, not because school is banned, but because hunger speaks louder than education. Electricity is patched together with plastic ropes. A warm shower is a luxury, and clean drinking water, a gamble. In Khorramshahr, a city once destroyed by war and still half rebuilt, locals must boil tap water or risk infections. Even in Tehran's outskirts, power outages can last hours, sometimes days. And yet, even here, kindness finds its way in. Teenagers tutor younger kids with chalk on brick walls. Grandmothers share tomatoes from backyard vines. You won't see this on the evening news, but it's real. Iran documentary after Iran documentary keeps showing palaces, protests, or politics. But this is Iran too, the quiet fight to stay human. So is this all there is to Iran? Not even close. Tehran, a city of nearly 15 million, pulses with contradiction. Rooftop cafes, French perfumes, underground raves, all less than a mile from a child selling gum on the sidewalk. Iran doesn't just defy the headlines, it dismantles them. It's one of the most outdated cliches still floating around, that Iran is a country where daily life unfolds on camelback, with no trace of modernity in sight. But step into any major Iranian city, and that image vanishes instantly. In Tehran, you'll see high-speed metro lines, cashless cafes, and traffic jams filled with both locally produced sedans and foreign imports. An American tourist finds the Tehran's metro safer and cleaner than many American cities, with guided tours making every street accessible. In Isfahan or Shiraz, you'll find shopping malls, co-working spaces, and neighborhoods with fiber internet that's faster than in many Western cities. Far from being stuck in time, Iran is home to one of the most self-reliant science and technology sectors in the region. Despite heavy international sanctions, the country has made notable advances in aerospace design, nanotechnology, and nuclear research. If Iran can build satellites under sanctions, what's stopping the free world from solving poverty? Iran has launched its own satellites and continues to develop an independent space program. Engineers and scientists are pushing forward even without access to many global resources. And on social media, where filters can warp reality, the truth still manages to slip through. Accounts like Rich Kids of Tehran have gone viral, showcasing rooftop pools, designer brands, and private house parties. Sure, this isn't the life of every Iranian. Rural villages still exist, and yes, some communities do rely on donkeys for transport in remote terrain. But so do innovation hubs. Startups, smart city initiatives, and young entrepreneurs are reshaping Iran's present. Iran isn't stuck in the past, it's living in two versions of the present at once. And that's what makes it so fascinating. You might expect Iran to be a place where books are banned, minds are silenced, and ambition is crushed by ideology. But walk onto a university campus in Tehran, Isfahan, or Mashhad, and that image collapses instantly. Students, both men and women, gather in open courtyards, laptops in hand, trading PDFs over Bluetooth, preparing for pitch competitions, robotics fairs, and late-night poetry readings. In 2025, Iran's own Ministry of Education confirmed something astonishing. Nearly 60% of all university students in the country are women. Let that sink in, 6 out of 10. And literacy. According to UNESCO's 2024 data, over 85% of Iranians can read and write. That's a higher rate than many neighboring countries, often seen as more advanced. In lecture halls and underground study groups, Iranian students dive into AI, philosophy, physics, and film. They build apps, write novels, and debate global ethics. One shining example, Maryam Mirzakhani, the late Iranian mathematician who became the first woman in history to win the prestigious Fields Medal, the Nobel Prize of Mathematics. Her journey began in Tehran's classrooms. Yes, censorship exists. VPNs are common. Forbidden books pass quietly from hand to hand. But these aren't signs of defeat. They're proof of determination. Education here isn't about passing tests. It's about daring to think. If knowledge is power, what does it say about a country where women lead the classroom and rebels read philosophy by candlelight? Let's get one thing straight. Iranians are not Arabs, never have been. And if you call them that on the street in Tehran, you might get an eye roll, a history lesson, or worse. It's one of the most persistent Western myths, lazily grouping Iran with its Arab neighbors, just because they share a religion or use a similar alphabet. The largest ethnic group is Persian, yes, but Iran is home to a mosaic of over 10 officially recognized ethnic minorities. Iran is a continent disguised as a country. But guess what? Farsi isn't Arabic. It's an Indo-European language, like English or French. Most Iranians wouldn't understand a single Arabic sentence unless they studied it. Speaking Arabic in Tehran is like speaking Spanish in Moscow, completely misplaced. Yes, Iran is Muslim, but so is Indonesia, and no one calls Indonesians Arabs. So why this constant mix-up? Maybe it's ignorance. Maybe it's media laziness. Maybe it's just easier to slap a one-size-fits-all label on the entire Middle East and call it Arab. But Iran has a 2,500-year-old Persian identity, older than Islam, older than the Quran, older than most empires that tried to erase it. The architecture, the poetry, the food, the language, none of it is Arab. And the people, they're fiercely proud of that distinction. Is it harmless ignorance or a refusal to see cultures for what they really are? To much of the world, Iran is seen as a threat, a country of missiles, militias, and menace. But zoom out, wider than the headlines, and something doesn't quite add up. Since the 1979 revolution, Iran has become the West's favorite villain. But here's a fact often skipped. In the last 250 years, Iran has not launched a single war of conquest. Not one. Even the brutal Iran-Iraq War from 1980 to 1988, which cost over 500,000 Iranian lives, was started when Saddam Hussein invaded. And today, Iran's military strategy explicitly centers around defense. Top generals reiterate it constantly. We will respond if attacked, but never strike first. Compare that to the military budgets of its neighbors. Saudi Arabia's per capita defense spending is 6 times higher, and the UAE outspends Iran by billions annually, according to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute. Yes, Iran funds proxy groups. Yes, its foreign policy raises eyebrows, but there's a fine line between calculated deterrence and full-blown aggression. And here's the contradiction. When you walk the streets of Tehran, you don't hear war chants. You hear wedding songs, you hear job complaints, you hear people exhausted from being reduced to a political pawn. Iran's streets feel safe, with crime rates lower than many US cities, according to travel advisories. So ask yourself, is Iran truly aggressive? Or have we just repeated the same story for so long that it became true by default? Let's be honest. Who benefits from painting Iran as the villain? So maybe Iran isn't the aggressor. It's just been wearing the mask we gave it. But this is only one layer. What else have we misunderstood about this country? Stay with us, because the next fact might just flip your idea of Iran upside down. They say the veil hides everything. That a scarf on the head erases a woman's power, her identity, her sensuality. But walk through the streets of Tehran, and you'll quickly realize it hides nothing. In fact, it dares you to look closer. In universities, women outnumber men. They top engineering programs, fill medical schools, and win academic awards. But it's outside the classroom where their silent rebellion becomes art. Iran's dress code tries to mute them. But women here turn fabric into flirtation, color into resistance. That scarf, often tossed back just enough to reveal a perfectly framed face, red lips, cat eye liner, and cheekbones that carry centuries of defiance. The long coat, cinched just enough to hint at form, heels clicking against cobblestone, gold bracelets dancing on wrists like whispers. Everything is covered, and yet somehow more alluring. In today's Iran, the average age of first marriage for women has risen to 24.5 years, a sharp increase compared to 2 decades ago. In Tehran, that number pushes even higher, nearing 29. Meanwhile, international marriage is slowly rising, especially among educated urban women who study or work abroad. According to a 2023 study by Iran's National Organization for Civil Registration, cross-national marriages grew by 14% over the past decade, with many Iranian women marrying men from Europe, Canada, or Australia. Some see it as escape, others a chance to finally be seen beyond the veil. So here's a question that might make you curious. If Iranian women are this smart, this bold, and this driven, what kind of man, if any, do they actually want? They say Iran is frozen in time, paralyzed by politics, trapped in sanctions, cut off from modernity. But then the metro doors open, and that myth vanishes fast. The Tehran metro hums to life, clean, punctual, crowded with students, workers, grandmothers with grocery bags. It stretches over 200 kilometers with more than 130 stations, making it one of the largest subway systems in the Middle East. If progress moves like this underground, what else is the world failing to see above ground? In 2025, new lines reached satellite towns, giving blue-collar families a lifeline to the urban core. In the city streets, controlled chaos. Taxis, buses, and scooters weave through city arteries while smart traffic lights manage the flow. In cities like Isfahan and Mashhad, light rail and BRT lanes move millions each day.
And it doesn't stop at city limits.
Iran's national rail system, with modern electric trains, runs from the Caspian Sea to the Persian Gulf, crossing mountains and deserts to connect the nation. In remote provinces, this isn't just infrastructure, it's survival. Even in healthcare, Iran bucks a stereotype. With over 900 public hospitals, universal coverage, and world-class transplant and cancer centers, the country quietly leads in medical access, while the world looks the other way. We've all seen the images: angry crowds, fists raised in protest, chants like "Death to America." It's shocking, and if that's all you've seen, it's easy to believe that Iranians have animosity toward the West or anyone from it. However, once you land in Tehran, you're met with something completely different. As soon as you step off the plane, people offer assistance with your bags, give you directions, and by the end of the day, a friendly stranger might invite you to their home for a meal. The truth is, most Iranians don't hate Westerners. The anger you often hear is directed at policies, not people. What might seem like hostility toward entire nations is often frustration at things like sanctions, foreign interventions, and the double standards they feel have affected their country. Even then, most of this frustration is aimed at governments, not the everyday traveler. In fact, Iran is one of the most hospitable countries on earth. This isn't just a personal opinion, it's a pattern that most travelers will confirm. In Iran, the hardest part of the day isn't navigating the busy streets or overcoming a language barrier, but politely declining the fifth invitation for tea in just a few hours. Persian culture places immense value on hospitality, seeing it as both a sacred and prideful tradition. Welcoming a guest is viewed as an honor, and most Iranians will go out of their way to make sure you feel safe, comfortable, and well-fed. Iranians don't hate you. They might ask about your impressions of their country. They want to know if you enjoy the food, the architecture, or the poetry. If you show interest, they will offer to show you parts of their world that don't often make it into the media. The deeper you go into Iran, the more difficult it becomes to hold on to any single simplified image of the country. Iran is far from one-dimensional. It's a place of complexity, culture, and contradiction.
In 2023, Iran welcomed around 6 million international visitors, marking a significant 43% increase compared to the previous year. The number is expected to rise further, with projections suggesting over 7 million tourists by 2024. This boom in tourism highlights the shift in global perceptions about Iran, showing that it is a safe, fascinating destination despite its complex political image. Iran's hospitality, along with its rich culture and diverse landscapes, makes it a unique and inviting place. But to truly understand Iran, you need to experience it firsthand, beyond the headlines. What if the most misunderstood thing about Iran isn't politics, but prayer? To outsiders, the sight of Iran's religious life can feel overwhelming. Black banners during Muharram, televised sermons quoting scripture, laws written in the language of divine will.
The word theocracy floats above every image. But here's the truth. Iran may be governed by clerics, but its people are not a religious monolith.
Roughly 90% of the population identifies as Shia Muslim, yet millions of Iranians don't follow this path. Iran is also home to Sunni Muslims, Zoroastrians, Armenian and Assyrian Christians, Jews, and a fast-growing segment of non-religious citizens. A 2020 survey by Gamayan found that over 47% of Iranians say they have distanced themselves from organized religion entirely, a staggering number in a country where religion is law. And even among believers, there's complexity. Some attend mosques weekly. Others only show up for funerals. Many participate in rituals out of culture, not conviction. The public displays, processions, passion plays, mourning for martyrs are just as much performance as prayer. Behind closed doors, especially among Iran's youth, questions echo louder than chants. What does faith mean when it's tied to fear? Can belief survive when it's mandatory? Iran's religion isn't just about scripture or sermons. It's about tension between tradition and rebellion, ritual and reason. And in that gap, Iranians are quietly redefining what it means to be spiritual under surveillance. The headlines never show that, but it's there, whispered, endured, and sometimes deeply believed. Step into Tehran, and the first thing you'll notice isn't silence, it's rhythm. Cafes pulse with indie rock and lo-fi jazz. The vibe in Tehran's cafes feels just like a small-town American diner gathering, where people trade stories, laughter, and the rhythm of everyday life. Booksellers whisper quotes from banned authors like Orwell and Hafez in the same breath. Teenagers pose for selfies beneath murals of ancient Persian kings, dressed in knockoff Balenciaga and Doc Martens. TEDx Tehran draws packed crowds where women, some in hijabs, some without, debate ideas of transparency, feminism, and identity in a nation that claims none of those exist. And underground art studios in Isfahan host gallery nights where bold paintings hang beside portraits of martyrs. Yes, surveillance looms, censorship is real, but so is the rebellion, quiet, creative, coded in color. A student launches a startup between VPN crashes. A filmmaker edits a band short at midnight. A poet posts in metaphors that slip through the censors. This isn't a society crushed by repression. It's one burning through it, slowly, fiercely, with glitter and grit. Iran isn't gray. It's every color fighting to be seen. So when someone tells you life in Iran is dull and hopeless, ask them, when was the last time they looked past the headlines? Think of Iran, and most outsiders picture one thing: sand. An endless, blazing desert dotted with camels and ancient ruins. But that image is less geography and more Hollywood fantasy. Yes, Iran has deserts. The Lut Desert once recorded the hottest surface temperature on Earth, over 159 degrees Fahrenheit. That's crazy, but it's true. Yet just a few hours north, everything changes. Towering forests hug the Caspian coast, drenched in mist. In spring, rice paddies ripple like green silk. In autumn, the hillsides burn gold and red. Drive west, and the Zagros Mountains greet you with snow-capped peaks and glacial winds. Tehran itself touches the Alborz Range, and within an hour, you're not walking sand, you're skiing powder. Dizin, one of Iran's top ski resorts, sits over 8,500 feet high, which runs longer than many in Europe. From subtropical humidity in the south to alpine chill in the north, Iran's climate swings wider than most imagine. Farmers grow citrus, pistachios, wheat, and saffron, all within a few hundred miles of each other. So no, Iran isn't a one-season wonder. It's a land of opposites, stitched together by elevation, latitude, and survival. If we reduce it to sand, we erase the snow. And in doing so, we erase the people who call all of it home. If Iran has forests, ski resorts, and snowstorms, why does the media still sell you nothing but sand and fire? Is it lazy reporting or something more intentional? Traveling to Iran isn't just about visiting another country. It's about embracing the contradictions, complexities, and incredible hospitality that make it unique. The experience will shift your perspective and challenge preconceived notions. So, next time you hear something about Iran, remember that it's not just the headlines you should focus on. The world is full of stories waiting to be explored, and Iran is one of the most misunderstood yet most fascinating places to see firsthand.
If this episode shifted your perspective on Iran, drop a comment and let us know how your views have changed. And for more eye-opening stories like this, subscribe to fellatravel. Let's journey beyond the surface together. Because the world isn't just what we hear, it's what we're willing to see and feel for ourselves.
Did you know the world's most restricted country has more cosmetic surgeries than all of Europe?